I've built dozens of automations that categorize things, like classifying leads or categorizing emails. And there's one thing that I always do to make sure that my clients are getting the best results possible. And we're talking about evaluations, which is a feature that Make.com actually doesn't provide out of the box, and n8n does, but in a limited capacity. But if you care about delivering high quality AI systems, the ones that are actually reliable over time, you need to do this in one way or another. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I go about measuring accuracy whenever I build an AI system. And we're going to cover three main topics. One, what n8n evaluations actually do. Two, why they're not enough. And three, how you can fix that problem whenever you're building it for yourself. And we're also going to be covering real numbers for automations that I've built in the past and how I've dealt with those numbers and improved them over time, because this is the foundation of building automations that are actually trustworthy, reliable, and accurate over time, like I said before. So first things first, let's talk about n8n evaluations and what they actually do in a categorization context. So when you're doing a categorization evaluation in n8n, you are selecting one specific category of an output and you're comparing it with an expected output that is previously defined in a data set when you're training your entire system. Now, what does that actually mean in practical terms? Let's assume that that email is supposed to go to the accounting department. So it's supposed to have an accounting label on that email. But whenever we run the AI, we're actually getting a different type of label. Maybe it's saying billing, or maybe it's saying something else that's not accounting. We need the AI to be able to categorize that email as saying accounting instead of any other words that could be possible. Now, that example that I'm giving sounds very easy because when you're thinking about just interpreting an email, that's something that AI does really, really well. But when you're actually touching on client automations and client systems, you do realize that these inboxes are a lot more messy and blurry between the lines of what a label is in comparison to another label. So you could have a world, for example, where you do have both labels, accounting and billing, and you need to be able to differentiate if the email is going to go to the accounting label or the billing label. Now, what n8n evaluations actually does is that it compares the expected value that you have for that categorization to the value that your AI actually gave you. And if it's anything different than what you're comparing to each other, you're going to get a 0. If it's exactly the same, you're going to get a 1. This is already a great start because we are looking at specifically true positives and true negatives in this scenario. Whenever you have a specific type of category, and here I'm using the language of true positives or true negatives, but it could be for any category, whenever you have those two things matching exactly, you will get the output that you're looking for. Now, the bad way of going about this process, if you're building in Make.com, for example, and would get you inaccurate results, is to look at the total number of instances that you got a specific category. So let's say, for example, your automation, it needs to output either a yes or a no. So you have the yes category and the no category, and you expect 30 yeses and 30 nos. Let's say you get 34 yeses and 26 nos. You assume that you're only off by 4. But when we jump over to the computer and we take a look at this exact example where we expect 30 answers of each kind, but we get 34 and 26, that the accuracy could look much different on a per category basis. So instead of only having 4 answers that were not what we expected, which is what we would intuitively assume by just looking at these numbers, we have a total of 14 answers that weren't what we expected. But we need to look at it on an individual basis. And that's something that n8n already gives to us natively. This specific n8n setup that I'm talking about with evaluations is really good if you have a human in the loop for all of your systems. So let's say that you are doing email categorizations, for example, and you have one general inbox for info@nameofyourcompany.com, and you're receiving all of your emails through there, and then each label or each sub inbox is dealt with by a specific person. That means that every single email will actually get read by a human, and you're just doing the organization side with AI. So if John, for example, takes care of accounting and accounting related emails, while Kate takes care of marketing related emails, if the AI sends the information to Kate when it was supposed to go to John, Kate can still forward the information to John. The problem starts when you have an automation that moves things to somewhere where nobody will actually look. And reality is, a lot of automations have this route, and this is because we're building automations and building AI systems that are supposed to save you time, right? They're not only supposed to organize, but they're supposed to give you back the time that you were spending doing this thing. So with this email example, it could be a miscellaneous category or an other category that you're not necessarily going to take a look at right now, but you're going to take a look at whenever you have the time. So if a really important email that's coming in from a client gets incorrectly categorized into an other category or a miscellaneous category, that means that you're going to for sure miss that email. So we know that if we have a setup where we're going to send off a specific type of email or a specific type of input into into a route where nobody's going to look at it again, that it needs to be accurate, or at least it needs to be accurate most amount of the time. I actually found out about n8n evaluations when I was building an AI audit process for a client, and that audit process meant that we would only send back to verifiers and to humans to take a look at that process again if we had audit issues, meaning that we would compare a checklist of items against the notes for that specific job, and if the information was incorrect, or if the AI determined if one of the checkpoints was incorrect, it would send it back to the human. But if it's not, that human will never see that information again, which means that the information needs to be absolutely correct. So to explain a little bit better that example, it's almost as if we had a checklist of things that we need to do, that we need to make sure that are done in a specific process. And here in this scenario, we have a primary care checklist, and we're just going to check every single one of these items over here on the list. Now, let's say that we did do items 1 through 6 correctly, but when we got to the do a relevant physician examination, we didn't do that as physicians. Now, this process that I actually did for a client was not for a health organization. It was for an organization in a different industry. But let's assume that we are taking, for example, the transcript of a consultation with a physician, and we're examining for each one of these checklist items. And let's say that the physician decided to not do a physical examination, which means that item number 7 here would fail under this audit. But if we know that item number 7 would fail, and the AI says that the physical examination actually did happen based on the transcript, we have a factual error from the AI, and a factual error that we can't commit. In fact, in this audit scenario where we're trying to check for mistakes, it's better if we over-identify mistakes than under-identify mistakes. Because if we under-identify these mistakes, those mistakes are never going to get to the hand of a real human that can actually review that process, meaning that it will get ignored forever. There's an example that's used a lot whenever you are talking about recall and precision, and specifically this type of categorization that you need to look for, which is cancer diagnosis. You can imagine that the AI could do one of two mistakes, right? It can say that someone has cancer when they actually don't, and it can also say that someone doesn't have cancer when they actually do. If the AI says that that person has cancer or is likely to have cancer, that means that the doctor will send that patient to another battery of exams, and maybe will start them on some basic medication. But if the AI says that they don't have cancer, it will send them home. So it is a lot riskier to say that someone doesn't have cancer when they actually do, instead of the other way around, because the risk factor here is sending someone home that does have cancer, and then that cancer gets progressively worse. So then how are we making sure that we are actually minimizing those instances where we have false negatives in a data set? Well, we need to actually look at the data set, and that's something that n8n doesn't provide out of the box. If you are using the evaluations over here, let's say you have an automation that looks something like this with an evaluation trigger, and you go over to the evaluations tab, which in this scenario it's not set up, you will only see a number at the end. You will see 86% accuracy, 99% accuracy. But if it's 86% accuracy, for example, you don't know if the 14% are all false negatives or false positives, or exactly what the mix of the results are. You would have to actually go into the data that you collected and look one by one. So that's exactly what I did when I was building this. I connected my n8n to an Airtable database because I needed this system to be super accurate. And when I ran a few batches in the beginning, I got these results over here, where we had 3 main categories for each checklist item, meaning that the checklist item could be not applicable, it could have been done correctly, which would be a yes, and it could have been done incorrectly, which would have been a no. And I actually had a decent sample size for this. It was 100 different audits, and each audit had 11 checklist items. That's why we have a total of 1100 over here. And for this table, I just decided to keep the simple numbers over here with the overall instead of a per question basis. But I quickly realized that a per question basis was a lot more effective. But before we get to the per question basis, when I ran the entire results and I got the n8n evaluations at the end of it, I got a total score of 95.6% accurate. And I thought, we're good. We're getting really good accuracy on this and really good information from this, so we can probably move this into production. But when I actually started looking at the distribution between the categories that I had, so this would be answers that were yes versus answers that were no, as well as the answers per question that I had or per checklist item, I realized that my problem was bigger than I thought. And as you guys can see, just by looking at this distribution over here and looking at specifically the column totals over here, we had 707 yes answers. Meanwhile, we only had 176 no answers across this entire sample size of 1100 questions. And by the way, guys, when I talk about questions, I mean checklist items. The way we structured this workflow was something along these lines, that we would get each one of the checklist items. So for example, checklist checklist item number 1 for this primary care checklist says, discuss the main reason for the visit, we would essentially ask the AI, was the main reason for the visit discussed? And we would provide the information about that specific scenario. So in this case, it could be a transcript of the visit. Let's say that you have like a recording whenever you're training new doctors or something along those lines, and you transcribe that recording for that 30-minute consultation into plain text, and then you're asking the AI about each one of these checklist items. But back to what we were talking about, when we looked at the distribution of these answers, we realized that a lot more of what we had were yeses in comparison to nos. But this wasn't the only problem that we had, because on a per question basis, this distribution of 176 no's was not even. We didn't have 16 answers per question that were no, which would be dividing this evenly by each one of the questions, 176 divided by 11. We actually had questions with 42 no answers. Meanwhile, we had one question that actually had 0 no answers. So how can I confidently tell a client that this AI audit process will always catch errors in a 95% with a 95% accuracy when I tested for one specific checklist item that had 0 wrong cases? So 0 cases where that item was not properly checked for. Well, the short answer is that you can't do that, because that's not the right way of building automations, and that's not the right way of communicating things to a client, even though your n8n evaluations are giving you a number as big as 95.6%. The number that really matters for this scenario is no recall. Now, what is no recall? It is the number of instances that our AI predicted the category no correctly. So it's pretty much 153 divided by 176 in this scenario. And when we look at those numbers of 153 divided by 176, we actually get a pretty decent accuracy. We get an 87% accuracy overall. But that's also not good enough, because these numbers are looking at all of the questions. So like I said before, how would I know if checklist item number 7, we correctly capture instances where that information is wrong if I never tested for any cases that actually had those pieces of information wrong? So, with this data that we got over here, I realized that the best that we could do would be to increase the sample size of no answers. Because with the scenario that we have over here, with the data that we have over here, we can confidently tell our clients that it's like hiring a human auditor and knowing that that human auditor will be really good at determining when a specific process doesn't have any issues. But when it does have issues, we know that it gets those issues right around 87% of the time. And for specific issues, we don't know if it catches it at all, actually. So to make this example a little bit more real, let's go back to the primary care checklist over here. So that moves us over to how do we actually solve that problem? Can we still use n8n evaluations? Well, the short answer for this specific type of scenario, no, not really. But for other types of scenario, yes, you can. I actually still ended up using n8n evaluations for other things. n8n evaluations would be really good if you're trying to optimize token count, for example. So if you're running different prompts with different models and you're trying to see which one is going to yield the least amount of tokens, meanwhile giving you the same exact output that you're expecting. If I were to continue to use n8n evaluations to evaluate the accuracy and the recall and the precision of my system, I would have had to do 2 different things. One, I would have had to separate the sample on a per question basis. So instead of having 1100 total answers over here, I would actually only have 100 total answers. And we had 1100 before because we had 100 different audits running across 11 different questions, like I explained. But even when we're getting 100 different answers for the same question, we need to have a balanced data set. So let's say that in reality, you're checking for a specific checklist item over here. For example, discuss the main reason for the visit. You see that the first thing that doctors do whenever you come in for a consultation is, why did you decide to book an appointment? Tell me what's going on with you, or whatever the question might look like. So this checklist item will almost always output an yes, meaning that when you look at your totals over here, you are probably going to have a lot more yeses than nos, just like the scenario that we had. But let's say that when you get to checklist item number 9 over here, which is discuss healthy choices, prevention, and immunization, not all doctors did that because it's a much more common error in comparison to the first one. And obviously here I'm just coming up with numbers, but then you would see, let's say, a 50-50 of answers that were no versus yes. So if I had this exact scenario where we ran the evaluations for n8n using point number 1 and point number 9 over here, and with point number 9, I had a 50-50 sample, and in point number 1, I had a 90-10 sample, 90 being yeses and 10 being nos, And let's say that for the AI categorization part of things, the AI checking of these things, we had 8 correct results out of 10. Meanwhile, for number 9, we had 40 out of 50. We still get the same 80% at the end of the day. But we know we can trust a lot more the answers of question number 9 because we're running all of these evaluations on a sample size of 50. Meanwhile, we're only running the sample size over here, or running the same evaluation on a sample size of 10. So then that means that the real way to fix it is to treat it on a per question basis and to make sure that your no answers are going to be big enough for you to give a big enough, answer. So in conclusion, if you are running n8n evaluations for a process that has a real business risk associated with choosing the incorrect category, in this scenario, auditing something as a yes when it was supposed to be a no, my recommendation, or the way that I went about this, is to build an evaluation that is completely isolated from everything else. And not only that, but you also need to balance out your sample size to make sure that you might not be necessarily reflecting reality, because you could have those 90-10 examples, but you need to have a big enough sample size to know that you are confident in the answer that you're giving. It could be, for example, that for question 1, when you expand it out to a data set that has 100 no answers, you would get a lot more no's or a lot more yeses than you expected them before, meaning that that 80% number would actually go up to 90 or go down to 70. How would you know if you haven't run it for a big enough sample size? Now, in practical terms, how I would do this in n8n, you can either use data tables in n8n or connect it to an external software. This could be Google Sheets or Airtable. Personally, I used Airtable for my builds over here, and data tables I actually ran into a few different errors because I think it is still in beta for n8n. And then within whatever database platform that you decide to use, you just pretty much need to build a pivot table. And that pivot table will be exactly just like this one, where you have your categories on your column and then your predictions on your rows. This could be inverted as well. It actually doesn't matter as long as you're looking at the correct numbers. So now you know what are the hidden flaws of n8n evaluations. And I had to find this out by myself, but I do take accuracy and reliability of AI systems very seriously. This is a topic that I've covered on the channel multiple times. So I'm very glad that I get to share this with you, because if you build n8n automations or any AI systems in other platforms as well, you need to know this concept. And if you need help building these systems as well, I occasionally do partner up with other people to build projects together. So feel free to reach out to me on the description below. And if you have a one-off question, just shoot me an email as well. I'd be more than glad to answer. But if you are looking to transform your business with AI in 2026 and get a lot of the time that you're spending on manual tasks and boring tasks on your day-to-day back to you, just make sure to reach out to me as well, because that is my core business, building AI systems that actually work for you instead of working against you. So with all of that being said, YouTube thinks that you will like this video that's popping up over here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.